Hello and welcome to Red Fox Classics, where we are looking again at the Mk2 GT6. Now, I've had this car for about 9 months now, but I'm only really just getting started on it because of some other stuff going on car-wise. However, in the last couple of episodes we've got it stripped down to a bare shell and it's ready to actually do some work. Now, this car has been off the road since 1983, and when I saw it first, the body was off the chassis. Chassis was stripped, engine was somewhere else in the unit, and the biggest problem to start with is that it's been sat on its floors. It's been sat on some stuff that was underneath the floors all that time, so they're a bit bent. Now, the first thing I want to do is try and get those straightened out, then assess what actually is going to need cutting away and perhaps replacing. I really don't want to take the main floors out, and I don't think I'm going to have to. I'm getting close to deciding I'm probably going to have to take the boot floor out. But once we're happy with those, I want to lift it off the chassis, lift the body off the chassis, and check the chassis for straightness. I don't really suspect there will be anything wrong with it, but as we're at the stage, let's just start, check against the workshop manual dimensions, and start from a clean slate. Then get the body back on and start to build up the rest of the car. So let's get started. Okay, so can you see what I'm getting at? This is, there's clearly been something under here in the weight of the car on it, so I want to try and bring this back down somewhat. I'm not concerned about any of the actual structural bits because this all seems fine. I mean, that's a huge chunky piece of metal, so that's keeping that in place. But we've definitely got bump up in the floor. Similar on the other side, and then in the boot too, and a little bit in the far corner, the other wheel arch. So I'm going to hit it with a hammer and see where we go. I've already done a bit of this sort of panel beating, which has definitely shifted things. So this seems to be going okay. So that's flattish. I've got this down. That's looking flat. I think this sort of corner could go down a little bit more. Definitely knocked my way to finding some more repairs that need doing. Seatbelt mount and a little bit here on the rear floor. This is where there's like a bracket underneath. You see, dark. Which I believe is something to do with the paint lines when they were being produced, like earthing strap or something like that. Anyway, there's a bit of it's gone around there, but it's going alright, I think, which is good. Remember, these are floors as well. I'm not. If they're a little bit bumpy, don't care. But I'm kind of hopeful that everything can be just restored to its acceptable level of flatness. Mostly what I'm concerned about is the seat being able to sit in the right sort of place, and obviously nothing springing apart when stuff gets cut. Because I can feel, well, this wing has been replaced at some point, and I can feel there's some repairs underneath. I don't like the way the sill is a replacement as well. I don't really like the way it fits. It's too far in, and also there's been repairs, and they're going to be. I don't want to leave them like that, because who knows what's underneath. Generally, the standard of repair on this car appears to be pretty good, but I'm not taking any chances. So it's looking like I may want to take the sill off and redo some of whatever's happened to the inner sill and the inner sills and the edge of the floor and all that. Anyway, I'm going to get on and keep bashing.
car on the ground, but I've got that sort of straightened out. I think I'm just going to replace the outer bit because it's just going to be easier. And you know, still, it's looking all right everywhere. That's come up okay, quite nicely really. Got this floor done. You know, it's a bit wobbly back here, but perfectly acceptable for a floor. And I think I might preemptively replace like the rear edge of the floor there, because given it's rusty on the outside and there's not a lot of sealer left, it's going to be rusty in that joint. It's probably worth just doing it. Anyway, I think my next challenge is going to be to lift the body. I'm hoping I can do it with the crane. Still mixed on the boot floor. I'm leaning towards wanting to just replace the panel, but you know, still time to think about that. So yeah, it's going to be shuffle the Spitfire outside and see if we find some points to be able to strap the body up and pop it up. I think if I'm going to do that today, I am just going to try and just lift it a bit. Yeah, see if I can, because it's going to have to come off. I'm going to have to sit the body somewhere, do all my chassis measurements, and then put it back on, because there's no way for it to sit or for any elongated period of time. So I'm going to work up to that. Actually, as well, I was surprised at how well this bitumen undersealed, or not underseal, what's it called? Sand deadening came off. Just a bit of warmth with the heat gun and the scraper slid right under and it all nicely peeled off. I left most of it in place on my Spitfire because it had been painted over 300,000 times and didn't see the need. And I may even leave that bit in the corner. That's probably wise to check underneath to see if anything's rusted, because that had. So I've got the crane out. Now what I want to try and do is lift the body off the chassis. I don't have a lot of time today, it's just a Thursday afternoon, so I'm not going to get to do a huge amount. I want to see if it will lift high enough to be able to clear the chassis without hitting any bits of the garage door. And yeah, let's see if this is going to work. Okay, so that works, which is great. I haven't tried to land it, well I did try it and then gave up trying to land it exactly in the right place on the chassis, because I want to lift it off again. There's apparently some repair needs doing on the chassis, but it could just be, I won't be able to see now the body's back on, but the end of this outrigger was split. So it could just be that. Obviously when the body's off, I'll be able to investigate that. I'll be able to check if it's straight, and then I've gone and searched through all the bolts I've saved or had new, and got all the proper body mounting washers. So I have -2 bolts. I've got a full set of what I need to mount the body. So when I'm happy with the chassis, I will get the body properly mounted in place, and then we're going to know we're in a good state to actually start doing repairs to the structure of the body. Now obviously with the GT6s having the roof, they are much more rigid than those, so there's less of a worry. But having it on the chassis, if we know the chassis is good, we know the body is positioned as it will be eventually, it's all done, then we know we're in a good state to start. So while I'm not going to get to lift this off and do all that till the weekend, I thought maybe I can come here, because this is badly dented. And what I think, my guess for what happened here is that the trunnion broke, because that looked very much like the tyre smacking into the bulkhead there, which is what would happen if you, well, not the trunnion, you snap the bottom of the vertical link where it sits in the trunnion. So I'm going to get the crane put back away and start smacking that with a hammer. Luckily, I've got easy access to both sides. So I've had a go at this with I use one of the stripping, well, the end of one of the sort of poly stripping disc things, and then the wire wheel. And I kind of attacked around here as well. I thought I found lead, but then actually there wasn't anything there. But the repairs are, I feel I'm going to have to cut it off. Don't like it. Problem for another time. Anyway, so this is obviously quite pushed in, and I'm just going to see if I can bring it out. I'm going to try and block it with a rubber hammer, a bit of wood, and then move on to actual hammers and dollies to try and make the shape nice. And there is a bracket in there, which I would like to avoid removing, but you know, it's going to depend on how well this kind of pops back. Okay, so I got that out okay. Probably needs a bit more, but I have to clean up of what's remaining. And we're roughly the right shape, so it's going to be kind of trying to reintroduce that crease and flow. And I think because I'm right-handed and I'm finding it difficult, I'm going to have to climb in the way of the camera. So I'm going to have to do that, and we'll have a look at it when it's done, or when it's improved, hopefully. So it's roughly back to the right shape. I've just gone over it with a sort of sanding block thing. I just don't, it's too hot today, I don't really want to do much more, or turn on the compressor to use the DA or anything like that. So got an idea, and there's a bit of a high there, that's low, and this is still a bit lumpy, but it's considerably better than it was about half an hour ago, so that's good. That's still a bit low. That little dimple is the spot weld for the bracket, as are those. So, and there's a little bit of a low behind it. So let's try and bring that up. They're still a bit lumpy, but it is improving. So I will keep going. Okay, so you can see that has much improved. It's still not quite right in this area, but I'm leaving it for now because firstly I'm sweating like anything because it's really hot and I'm hitting stuff with hammers, and secondly because I'm going to have to come in here at some point because like that, I think, is where the sill cap should be. Obviously this has been put over the top. It comes over here. So to tidy this up, I imagine I'm going to be putting a new piece of metal in around there, because this is definitely coming off, because this is all over the top of the edge of the sill, and it's of the stick something, weld it on a bit, hit it, weld it a bit more until it covers everything up type repair. So it will definitely be coming off. So then maybe I'll do more to this panel, because obviously once there's less structure to it, it's going to be more flexible anyway. But it's looking pretty good for the moment, and having the hole is quite handy. I was thinking actually the battery box will be one of the first jobs, but now I'm thinking it's going to be one of the last, because it's going to give me access in to the floor, and the floor also needs some work, and it'll make that much easier, because crawling in the footwells of these to weld is really not very fun. Anyway, that'll be it for the moment, and the next thing we'll do is probably going to be take the body off and do the chassis checks. Right, so that's off for the moment, sitting on some stand and a bit of wood on the feet of the crane. Only temporary, obviously. Now, let's have a look at the chassis. I mean, it's all looking alright, which is what I expected. I thought this was galvanising, but it looks more like this was zinc paint, or just grey paint. Now the fellow I got it from did say there was a bit of welding to do on the chassis, but only a tiny bit. I don't actually know where he was thinking. Unless it's this, because that obviously does need doing. Can't see anything else. It's missing a cross tube as well. Well, do they ever have cross tubes? It doesn't have a cross tube, just got to get one. It says Cocker on there. There's some knackered looking white flecks. I wasn't planning on retaining the white flecks anyway. Going to buy a CV axle conversion kit, I think. Well, I mean, that all looks fine. Let's get on with some measuring then. Now what that involves is jacking the car up, and you can do this with the body on clearly, but we're able to take the body off, and it's going to make access to most of it a hell of a lot easier. Anyway, so jack the car up, there's some points on the chassis to measure, more clearly detailed on that diagram over the page, and then you're doing cross triangulation type measurements. So I'm going to get on with that. And I think I will film a bit of a here's how we're going, rather than, you know, trying to watching me chalk lines all over the floor. See you in a bit. Okay, so I've not got it quite to what's specified in the manual, but I do have it so the points you have to check first. So this and that are labelled E. In the centre of this bolt, and the equivalent over here are labelled A, and I've got those so they're equally high off the floor. Which means, while I've not got the exact measurement yet, it's not twisted, which is, you know, good to know. In fact, is that all they want you to measure? Well, regardless, there's nothing to... It'd be better to do this check, whether that will be normal practice or not. So I'm going to work on getting the front a bit higher, because it needs to be... So I've currently got 63.35 on the rear, and I need to be able to get the front up. Front's about 58 at the moment, so let's see if I can get it exactly to match, and then go from there. Right, so I've got it right, and the reason I was confused, so I've had the spirit level on the frame because it makes sense that for checking straightness it would going to end up level in the centre of the chassis, and it wasn't when I was following the manual. And I've had a look in the Spitfire manual, and the Spitfire manual gives different dimensions for the Spitfire Mark III than the Spitfire 4s, which makes sense because the front of the chassis was redesigned to cope with the bonnet redesign. And the GT6 manual, or the one that I've got, doesn't refer to that change, even though the chassis is changed the same. So using the Spitfire dimensions, I've got it right. So I'm going to commence with drawing stuff on the floor. So I've gone around and I've dropped all of these marker points down to a mark on the floor with a plumb bob, and then measured the centre line between them. So got this shock mount, strut top, or would be a shock mount, I don't think it's used as that on the G2, is it? The centre of the diff bolt, the front diff nose mount bolt, this body mount hole, that body mount hole, the outrigger, and this hinge mount. So I now should be able to lay a straight line down the middle of all of them. Okay, so within margin of error for using a paint pen, and that outrigger is definitely twisted, and the little bits of, you know, these have been pinched in as well, so I don't think I'm getting the best of measurements, but I'm getting an acceptable lineup, I think. And obviously I had no reason to suspect this chassis was bent, but as we're at this stage, I just wanted to check. So I'm going to go around, I'm going to clean up all the captive bolts, captive nuts for where we're going to put the body back, then put the body back. Kind of for the curious, before I put all this back together, I thought that was quite interesting to be able to see just how close the engine is to the bonnet, because this is obviously sitting low, it's sitting on the engine, but you can see up there at the front where the radiator sits in the radiator top hose, just how it fits in the bulge. Anyway, I've got all my holes tapped, so I'm going to get the body back on. And there we go, back on the chassis. I have got most of the bolts in. I've got the front two, the rear two, which are the ones where the actual spacers go underneath of. Ones which the actual spacers go underneath of. I had a bit of a struggle with these two. That's probably because I think I forgot to tap the holes in the chassis, or re-tap the holes in the chassis, because they just wouldn't bite. But I've managed to deal with them. I'm missing one for that side. Can't get that one quite in, but otherwise I'm fine. I'm happy that it is in the right place and at the right height, because we've got the aluminium spacers under here and the rear spring tunnel mount things. So basically, if the body is in an okay position, I'm happy to try and fit the bonnet to it. And the bonnet is one of the first things I want to tackle, because this side has been disassembled, so yeah, it's all wobbly. But that will be something I will do in the next episode. I'm going to just get this cleared away, get the crane put away and all that, and then possibly tomorrow for me, I'm going to start looking at the bonnet. So thanks everyone for coming along, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, thanks for subscribing. If you're not subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It's free and it helps this channel be noticed, and I will see you next time.